Hello and welcome to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast with me, Phil Aston. And on this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back Greg Hart, guitarist and songwriter from the wonderful Cats in Space. But in this particular episode, it's going to be a bit different. We're going to go back to 1976 because I've asked Greg to choose his 10 favorite tracks from that extraordinary year in rock music and pop. But this isn't going to be a countdown from 10 to 1. We're imagining that Greg has been given the job of creating his own 10-track vinyl compilation album. What song is going to open side one? What will
I'm
belong
Kate
at the
Perry. I'm
what will
Mr. Kate
belong at the
Perry.
end of side two? And what will be those deep cuts? And will there be a guilty pleasure tucked away on the middle of side two, perhaps? We don't know yet. And we'll also have time to talk about the forthcoming Cats in Space new album as well, which has just been finished. And this is going to be the first album with a new lineup. So I'm really looking forward to talking about that. So welcome, Greg. Welcome to Now Spinning Magazine.
Hello, good to be back.
Yeah, so 1976. I remember reading a quote from you, Greg, that says if you could live in 1976, you would.
100%. I'm just keep reliving 1976 forever and do things slightly different each January the 1st. So it wasn't just like Groundhog Day, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's the 70s is the biggest part for me because I grew up, you do most of you growing up and changing when you're like 8 till 16 or whatever, so
Yep.
they're very formative years that are so incredibly important to how you map your life out. Um, and it's fortunate for me that it was in that period. Some people say the 60s when it was the Beatles and the Who and the
Yeah.
Stones, which I don't really remember that well. I do remember a little bit, but the 70s was just like this. It just seemed like a brilliant time to be alive. I'm sure as a kid, our
Yeah.
minds were twisted with it. In the cold light of day, there was the 3-day week and there was, nightmares going on everywhere. But when you're 9 or 10, you don't care as long as you got
No.
Kaplunk and, Super Striker, who cares, So, yeah, it's just steeped in me, the 70s, musically, TV, films, everything really. It's the most depressed man on earth on the 31st of December 1979 was me because we were going into the
Because
80s.
you're
I,
leaving the decade behind.
I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to go.
Right then. Track one, side one of
On
the best of
the K-Tel
1976.
album,
Yeah.
yeah, 10 dynamite hits.
Yeah.
Right, well, this is kind of, it's not in any kind of order and it's not even in a particularly
Yeah.
well flow because most of the songs could start the album. Um, but I guess to you can't really not do this song anywhere other than first, and that's Tarot Woman by Rainbow off of the
Oh,
album.
yeah. Rainbow Rising. Yeah.
It's just like I said in our video a few weeks ago when I was doing the six from '76. I got the album by mistake. It wasn't meant to be that album. It was meant to be Jailbreak. So I had no idea at all, other than Cozy Powers, the drummer. And then you just kind of plonk the needle on, and you just hear that Moog thing going on, which
Yeah.
I've since found out Tony Carey did two Moogs. He did a double track.
Yeah.
So we did one part, then they said, "Oh, could you do a harmony on that?" I went, "Yeah, sure." So that's how we did it, because obviously Moogs are monophonic, only
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
note at a time. And so that's amazed it even more all these years later to know that that was done that way without a click track as well. So he had to do it as he felt it. I mean, that's something else to do that. And it was just a game changer, up until then. I mean, I didn't say this in the video, but just prior to that, I got the Hello album, Keeps Us Off the Streets, which I absolutely love, still love to this day. But that's where my head kind of was in the April of '76. It was Hello, Mud, Sweet, Slade, Chicory Tip, or, and
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah. The
real
glam
pop,
stuff. Yeah.
all fantastic stuff, Gary Glitter, all that stuff. So to suddenly hear Rainbow Rising Tarot Woman was like, what the hell is this? And it just like you instantly grew up into another area. You know what I mean? So you could go with the big kids at school and say, "Yeah, Tarot Woman, yeah, that's the one." In fact, a lot of the bigger kids at my school didn't have Rainbow Rising yet. They were still doing Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and the Who. So they hadn't found. I guess because they were Deep Purple fans, they probably didn't approve of Richie Blackmore going off. I didn't even know Richie Blackmore was in Deep Purple. I knew nothing. I didn't
Wow.
know. No, didn't know any of it. I knew that my brother had Fireball, but I didn't like it. I thought it was rubbish. I just didn't. I thought, and that bass guitar solo in the first track, I couldn't get my head around that for years,
Yeah.
But I didn't know any of the backstory. So Rainbow to me was Cozy Powell and this amazing keyboard player and this amazing singer. That
That was
Jimmy
it.
Bain, no idea. Richie Blackmore, no idea.
No idea. So
No.
side two must have blown your mind then, really. Stargazer and Light in the Black.
God, yeah, a light black, bloody hell. I mean, yeah, it was. But again, I guess I was literally just 13. So when you see an album with two songs on one side, you just think it's either a classical album or it's just not what I was used to. I was used to like Top of the Pops albums with 10
Yeah,
tracks
yeah,
a
yeah.
side,
Yeah,
or Hello, 5 tracks and 6 tracks, or Queen,
yeah.
7 and 5 tracks. So it felt very grown up to have an album that had two songs on one side.
Yeah, very serious. And of course, the cover with the fist coming out of the ocean and the gatefold sleeve, perfect, wasn't it?
Ben
But
Kelly.
yeah,
Yeah, ironically, who did the Kiss sleeves as well?
yeah,
It's
he
just
did.
all.
He did. Yeah,
Yeah,
very true. So
yeah.
great choice. So the second track in, what have you got?
Second track in is that as he goes to his computer because my screen's just come off. Bear with me. I knew this would happen. Right, so the second track is a song that predates that slightly, but it'll be no surprise to anybody that knows me that it's a 10cc track.
Yeah,
So this coming out on the back of Bohemian Rhapsody and Music by John Miles, to hear another song that was 6 minutes long that was just beyond epic was like another one of these weird game changers. So it's like, what is this? And it's I'm Mandy Fly Me, by 10cc off the How Dare You album.
yeah,
And it was again, I loved the choral vocal vibe that Eric Stewart used to do. He had a very soft, palatable voice, nothing histrionic about it at all. And he just used to whimsically, sing these songs with all these wonderful arrangements and all the musicality going on behind it. And I just loved it. I mean, I loved 10cc right from Donna and Johnny Don't Do It, which was a flop, But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I had Johnny Don't Do It because 10cc were just like a funny little pop band. So I'd kind of grown up with 10cc right from Donna, right the way through Life as a Minestrone,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
Not in
yeah,
Love, so I knew what stuff. So in a way, How Dare You was an album I was expecting to hear, although I couldn't afford to buy it. I bought the single, and yeah, it was the bit in the middle with the acoustic guitars, that
yeah,
and then it goes into this mega solo. Then it just suddenly breaks and goes, then into another section. It's all about the story of the poster, and it's genius. And there's so many conspiracies about the song as well. Obviously, with the Mandy being short for um, the drugs, what they call
yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah,
man.
yeah. Mandrax. Yeah,
So the hallucinogenic thing, and you think, oh, is it all about going on a trip? And is there another side to it? Is there another underlying? It's just a piece of genius, and it's something that is an absolute blueprint for Cats in Space. And I don't mind who knows that. It's like if you're going to do something, then go to the well of I'm Mandy Fly Me because you'll find so much stuff in there you can get influenced by. Especially the multi-layered acoustic guitars, which bootleg bandoleros off of our
yeah,
Kickstart the
yeah.
Sun album.
It's almost
So,
like it's like progressive pop, isn't it? Because
yes, yeah, progressive pop, which is
yeah,
perfect for me. I love
yeah,
pop music. Unashamedly love pop music. Um, yeah, so I was very influenced by that. I mean, I can't even tell you. I think I did at least six acoustic guitar overdubs on bootleg bandoleros intro to get every single um, progression of the chord structure.
yeah,
Every inversion, and then did the same thing on a Nashville tune guitar to get the octave up. So I'm just going from the boots right to the ceiling, just to layer it up to try and do that I'm Mandy Fly Me thing. And it just worked. It's fantastic.
yeah. It's
So
Fantastic track and brilliant album. So third track, halfway through side one.
Right. So this is a bit of a tough one because I mean, technically, I could picture 20 pop songs that I would play, or I have played a lot more than some of the songs I'm doing here. But I've got to go. I'm trying to do it as a package where these songs have like helped mould me as what I do. You know, I could go on about Gladys Knight, but you know, I'm not going to go on stage like Gladys Knight, obviously.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to go on stage like Rick Parfitt from Status Quo. You know, Status Quo, for what they do, there's never been a band that can touch them. Rick Parfitt is not a rhythm guitar player on the face of the earth that's come anywhere near him, not even Malcolm Young. You know, as far as I'm concerned, Rick Parfitt is the dude. He is everything what a rock star should be, even though he plays a Telecaster. But Mystery Song, when that come out, and me and my mate across the road, my mate Andy, who was a big Quo fan. Again, we'd grown up a little bit with Break the Rules, Down, Down, Caroline, so we knew Quo, and he got Blue for You, and we just Mystery Song. Oh my God, what is this? The words don't mean nothing. It's that guitar sound, you know, with that kind of phase of flanger.
It's the way it starts. Yeah.
It's just, and that is just glorious. And obviously, when they played it live, when we was on tour with them, just hearing that intro, which obviously done by Richie, you know, the guy after Rick Parfitt.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'd love to play that. I'd love to play that. So that song, funny enough, has been on my mind a lot recently, and there's a little nod to Quo on the new album. Which is a very, very. In fact, anyone coming to Firebolt Festival on Sunday, this Sunday. If this goes out after that, last Sunday, but we're going to be debuting a new song, and it is the song that has got the Quo influence in it. Because the whole band, we've got to stick that in. We just got to do that live because it's so much fun. And me and Sam Woods, you know, that lovely Sam, who's now playing with us, when we were in the studio doing the Quo, I just went, I thought I'd never do a record. I thought I'd never do what I did when I was 13, and we've done it, you know. So Mystery Song's just, you know, there's loads of Quo songs, but that's my favorite.
But that is a highlight of their catalogue, without a doubt, from Blue for You, 1976. Right, track 4.
Right, track 4. This is it's got to be Kiss. You know, I can't do a top 10 in 76 without doing something off a Destroyer. I mean, that'd just be ridiculous. But I thought I should do Detroit Rock City because it was the first Kiss song I ever heard. And I just thought, oh my God, what's this happening? You know. But as time's gone on, and I've seen Kiss do 103 farewell shows at vast expense to my wallet, something about Shout It Out Loud used to touch me in a really, I don't know why Shout It Out. I just love Shout It Out Loud as a 2.5 minute pop rock song, but it always reminds me of Kiss Live. It just reminds me of when Shout It Out Loud and Stanley would do the thing. And I thought, this is everything about what pop rock should be. You know, it's just does so much with so little, and I just love it. And the chorus and the the Motown thing, and it's just a piece of Bob Ezrin genius, you know, and to get all that in under 3 minutes, you know.
Yeah, and it fits in with what you said at the start of this. You know, listening to Slade, Sweets, T-Rex. You know, in many ways, Kiss were just an extension of that, but obviously from the US, weren't they? Because it is like huge choruses, like Slade. In fact, I'm sure Gene and Paul were watching Slade in the audience, weren't they? A few years just before this came out.
I think they were doing something, weren't they? Because he nicked the dollar sign from Dave Hill's shoes for a start, didn't he? Because Dave Hill had the dollar sign. But I mean, I think obviously with Kiss being American, there's the whole different approach to how they do that kind of stuff over there. From, you know, Slade coming out of the black country, you know, and just doing that stomping thing on the floor. But yeah, I mean, they pioneered that whole, you know, pre-punk kind of, you know, terrace anthem stuff. I mean, Slade invented it, you know, no doubt about it. Kiss just put the "how you doing" bit on the top, and It's more explosions, But
Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
It Out Loud is. I could have gone for Flaming Youth. Could have gone for King
yeah.
of the Night.
You could have gone for many things
There's
here.
quite a lot. I
Yeah,
mean, it's it could have been any of them really. Even Do You Love Me? I never used to like that much, but over the years, like that song really grew on me. Again, because of the emptiness of the production, but it made it so big, and it with the tubular bells, of course,
yeah,
which
of course, yeah.
I've been known to knock a few in my time on Cats and Space records. So yeah, Shout It Out Loud in the tin.
Brilliant. So last track, side one.
Here comes a wild card.
Yeah,
So I could have pulled in so many wild cards, and I'll reveal at the end of the 10 some of the songs that will
yeah,
just make people go, I'm not interested in that guy. He's got no credibility at all. So I'm going to lose my credit at the end. But this song definitely isn't a guilty pleasure. It's done by a band from I think, the late 50s and the 60s, who had this resurgence in 75, 76. And they brought out, I think it was 3 songs, and they are just pieces of pop genius. And this particular one is Who Loves You by the Four Seasons.
oh, right. Oh,
That
yes,
song,
yes, yes, yes. Yeah,
Who Loves You, Pretty
yeah.
Baby. It's just,
Frankie Valli, yeah.
man, it's just pop beautiful. It's just beautiful. And they did Silver Star and December 63, Oh What a Night. And The Night as well, the song called The Night, all off the same album. And it's those 4 songs are, I mean, how anyone could have 4 mega songs in a row like that? It was just incredible. But Who Loves You is, I just love it. I just find the vocal delivery, that is something that me and Mick Wilson very much went on for. We did the Narnia album. We were always going to the Four Seasons well, saying, I just want to do that, that, and the old, again, the phasery hi-hats, and just that beautiful choral vocal that just drives the whole song with the bass line. And I just thought, why can't that be in a rock song? Why can't you rock that up and use that? So we did that on a track called Unicorn off of the Day Trip to Narnia album.
Yeah, great album.
That totally Four Seasons. In the middle section, it was totally a Four Seasons ape, and I'm really proud of that. We've never done it live because of the production of that track. We've never attempted Unicorn live, um, but it's one of my favourite Cat songs.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about, as people don't tend to talk about Who Loves You, Silver Star, and The Night. Talk about December '63 because it's on every blooming,
Yeah, yeah,
Christmas
yeah, yeah.
party. But yeah, I love the Four Seasons periods. They're just brilliant. I just loved it.
No,
Unashamedly,
fantastic.
there's no guilty pleasures with me.
No, 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 no. I mean, and also, I mean, Frankie Valli's what is in his 90s and he's still treading the boards, isn't he? I mean, they've gone through so
So
many fashions and just carried on being who they are. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Right,
yeah, right.
that is
Right.
side one. Side one.
You
So
needed
side,
a calm one at the end.
yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
good.
Side one had to calm down at the end.
It did. So first track on side two,
It can only be one song by the man, Mr. Philo. Boys Back in Town.
Boys Back in
Greatest
Town.
song ever written. End of story. No debates, no discussion. The greatest song ever written. Boys Back in Town. There's other songs that are also the greatest song of all time. Of course there are. But as rock songs go, that was a life changer. For me, that was a path. That was an absolute. As Paul Stanley, I've been given a rule, and that gives the rock and roll. That was a light bulb moment for me that went from me wanting to be a golfer or a jockey or an artist, a painter or whatever. And I thought, I just want to do that. That is it. I want to be whatever that is, whoever they are, American, I thought they were. I want to be Phil Lynott, Scott Gorham, Brian Robertson, Brian Downey. I want that. And it's never changed. To this day, to that, never changed. All through the crazy 80s and 90s, Phil Lizzy were always way ahead. That never forward, never stopped playing them, never stopped being influenced by them, never stopped getting a buzz out of listening to the music. And the boys are back with the swing, the groove of Brian Downey, the harmony guitars, the relatively simple vocal because it's only an answer line. It's not a big. Lizzy never did 5-part harmonies, but there was a swagger and there was a coolness about that song and the storytelling and Phil is just untouchable. It stands alone. It can only start side one or side two of an album and perish the song that tries to follow it. And it's
Do you
just
feel
another
that?
Thin Lizzy song.
Do you think that a lot of the Lizzie stuff, especially that song, because it was the song that kind of broke everything open for them, is the storytelling and the romanticism in the way that Phil Lynott, he's almost poetry, but in a way that you
Um,
could almost visualize yourself in the story.
yeah, untouchable. I can always remember if the boys want to fight, you better let them. And
Yeah,
there's a throwing line, and that chick, in the corner,
yeah,
it's all that the slang and it was so picturesque, Then when obviously I started delving into the Lizzie back catalogue because the minute I got Jailbreak, I'm in.
yeah,
I made it sorted, or make it Vagabonds, or get Nightlife Fighting. I got the lot. I just soaked up everything, and it was hard to get some of those albums even back then.
yeah, it was.
Um, but the more I listened to it, I thought he's not your conventional songwriter. He's writing songs about history. The island, obviously, and beautiful love songs that nobody else could write. I mean, that song, "A Little Girl in Bloom," "Little Girl in Bloom." How, I mean, what a genius thing! I didn't know what "Little Girl in Bloom" meant until you start really looking into it, thinking, "Oh my God, it's about a young girl that's got pregnant," you know. And it's a throwback to his mum
Yeah,
Philomena, how it happened to her,
yeah,
and how he could get the terminology of watching a game of cricket. You know, I just thought, wow, this guy's just on his own, and the tough stuff like the boys are back, a Jailbreak. There's never been anyone like him. I know he wanted to be Hendrix, and he was Hendrix and so much more.
he was,
It's,
wasn't he? Yeah,
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 and I know it sounds really horrible, but in a way, I'm glad I got no memory of Phil being a 70-year-old man. Like they all are nowadays. Fine, we grow old with him. I'd rather him be alive, obviously, and be around. But my God, the memories that you've got of the coolest black man that ever walked the planet. So I'm grateful for that.
yeah. And I think that the kind of the way people think of Thin Lizzy now is probably even higher than it was about a decade ago. With all the recent box sets, I think there's a love for Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy that's probably grown in stature over the passing years.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen to every band. A
No,
lot of bands will kind of meander along and they go, "Oh yeah, another box set from blah blah." But yeah, because they never had the break. They were so bad timing and unlucky and whatever. They were unlucky back in the day. I remember getting infuriated at school when Robbo cut his hand. I mean, God, I hated him. I hated him because I knew, even at that age, I knew that Lizzie were going to break America. I didn't understand the terminology and how that happens, as a
yeah,
14-year-old. But I knew that was a calamity and a half. And I thought, you absolute, what have you done? It reminded me of Brian Conley getting kicked in the throat before the Who gig.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that would have put Sweet on a completely different path.
Different
It
path,
would
wouldn't
have
it? Yeah,
it would have reinvented Sweet, and he ruined that. And I thought it's happening to my favourite band again, because Sweet were obviously my favourite band
yeah.
back then. So yeah, I
That's
was
it's a
yeah.
great choice. I mean, Thin Lizzy
I can
released
talk about
two fantastic
yeah.
albums in 1976, and that's got to be the track if you're going to pick one, really, that kind of sums it up. So, track two, side two.
Okay, straight into an absolute wild card and a half. Now, anyone that's seen Cats in Space do the recent Acoustic Act gigs will know that we've done this song live, and it was like a what moment? They're doing, what are they doing here? And yet it stormed it, and you realise that underneath every crusty rock fan, there's that kind of, oh, I used to like this at the disco at school,
Okay.
and again, it's all about a memory of taking people back to when they were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and whether they like the song or not nowadays, it will go, oh, I remember I took out that girl, whoever, or I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
doing, and it's a song called You to Me Are Everything. by The Real Thing,
Oh,
who were
wow.
David Essex's backing band, incidentally, before they went solo.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, the perfect pop song. It's not really disco, it's just British pop that you can dance to. And it's verse, chorus, key change. And it's a three-part harmony, or there may be a fourth tucked in there. And everything about that straightforward way of playing C to A minor, the D minor 7 and the major. That's how you make it perfect. And that song, I don't know why that hit me, because it was the same time as The Boys Are Back in Town and Peter Frampton and all the rock
Yeah.
stuff I was getting into. I just love The Real Thing. And the follow-up, Can't Get By Without You, which is exactly the same song, but the same formula, and it worked again. It's just a perfect pop song. And again, it's no guilty pleasure. I don't care. And I used to play it in the Supersonic 70s show. And the minute everybody was out the seat. Never mind doing Queen or Mr. Blue Sky. The Real Thing, everybody is up and they're dancing. Even the blokes that are sitting there begrudgingly with their wives that didn't really want to come to the show in the first place, but they come because we do ELO apparently and T-Rex. They got up. They were okay.
Yeah.
And it crosses everybody. And if you can't smile and listen to that song and turn around and say, I hate that, then you've got a problem. You know what I mean? It's a joyous. It's what music does. It should bring that amount of joy. And that, Phil, we've spoke about it
Yeah.
for ages. And You To Be Everything. I mean, no matter what's happened, that song lifts. And I said to Stevie, I said, I want to do it.
It's a great choice, and all of these songs you picked so far, Greg, are all kind of tap into the spirit of Cats in Space, where your music is so positive and so uplifting, and the fact is that the choruses and the melodies are so powerful, obviously because you're a melting pot for all this stuff, really.
Melody is everything. Melody, ask any of the greats. It's like being a heavy rocker and a metal head and all this kind of stuff. But that's fine. It doesn't appeal to me at all. It never has done. The true greats of the music industry, your Lennons and your McCartneys, your Oscar Petersons, your Stephen Grappellis, whoever these, they all came from a melody. Elvis Presley, it all comes from a melodic thing. So pop music is that. The Beatles invented it, and You To Me Everything and all those kind of songs, they're just great melodies. And I got no shame in it. I got my favorite chord is the major 7 chord, which you don't do in heavy rock, of course. But
No, of course not. No, no, very true. Yeah,
we've
very
been
true.
asked to cover it. Someone said, would you do a cover of that Real Thing song and put it out? I went, I'd love to. Maybe we will.
Yeah, yeah,
To me, it doesn't matter. It's a phenomenal good pop song. So
yeah. Wonderful. Well, this is shaping up to be an absolutely banger of a 1976 compilation album. So track 3 on side 2.
well, I nearly didn't put this in because I could put some other songs in and everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, I knew we put that one in there. Well, there's 2 of these to go, to be honest. But this song in 76, again, it struck a chord with me, and it shouldn't have done because it's actually quite morose and it's not the kind of song that I would normally go for. But the Walker Brothers, I just love Scott Walker's voice. I mean, who can't appreciate that baritone? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And that the reverb and the production that the Walker Brothers used to have. And then they kind of disappeared, and they come back and bring out this song called No Regrets, which was an old cover of Tom Rush, wasn't it?
yes, that's
In fact,
right.
John did a cover of it as well before. And this Walker Brothers song comes out, and I just thought, wow, this song just builds and it builds and it builds, and the bass line's getting beyond busy. And then bugger me, there's the guitar solo to end all guitar solos at the end that I hadn't heard since Goodbye to Love by the Carpenters, which
Yeah,
had we been doing 1972 today, that one would be top of the shop, obviously. So you're hearing this mega guitar solo. I'm like, oh, this is phenomenal. I just love it. And it always reminds me of my dear pal, Adi, who's not with us, unfortunately. And that song, I don't know why, but it reminds me of me and him going to art school on a Saturday because we wanted to do more art than we was doing at school, and that song always reminds me of that period of time, and it's very special. But over the years, the song has just become an absolute classic. It's just a
It
timeless
is.
classic. Mid-Euro did a cover of it, and in the 80s, and proceeded to trample all over it. And no one's really done it since. So I thought, well, we better do it then.
Yeah,
Do,
yeah. Your
we'll
version
do a good
is
job of it.
stunning.
We
Yeah,
did
yeah. Your version is
done three
amazing.
versions of it, to be
Yeah,
fair. Yeah, yeah. But the one we did, when we did it on the live track on the Time Machine album as the bonus, not all the band were totally up for doing it. They thought, well, why do you want to do that? I said, look, can you just do this for me? I don't want to bat my own ego for a bit. I said, I just want that. If you don't do it, I'm going to do it with other people. So I'd rather you guys do it because you're brilliant, and I want it to be a Cat song. And Stevie was all over. So we did it at our very first gig. I think we did it on the first 3 or 4 gigs because we didn't have enough material to do a full show back then. And we used to end the first Cats gigs with No Regrets. I think it was Unfinished Symphony into No Regrets, and then a Sweet and Slay cover. And it just used to go down a storm because we rocked it live, with the guitar solo. It's my chance to do the old slash on the cliff top thing,
yeah.
And, I don't go for many big solos. I let Dean or Sam do them or whatever. I'm not one for going, and now I'm going to go nuts for far too long. But that solo, I learned to play it years and years ago because I just had to know how that was constructed because it was my favourite solo other than Goodbye to Love. So yeah, it's a very powerful song, and I think Cats have done it an incredible justice. If I do say so myself, I really think it's one of the best things we've ever done. I
I
do.
I would say that. I mean, what I love about that particular version that you do is it follows the route that you think it's going to go, and then of course Damien lets go of his seatbelt and just takes off.
There we go. Yeah, I'll give you 2 verses, but I'm going to go on the
I'm
third.
going. Yeah, I'm going over here.
Yeah, there we go. And of course, we had uh, BJ Cole, who played on the original. He came in and replayed it for us on our version. So hearing
Yeah,
his track
validation. Yeah,
for the first time was like just that intro. I was like, oh my god, that's going to be on our song. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
well, it's a magic thing that you can do from time to time, and that's a memory that we'll take with us. Having BJ Cole play on the album.
No, superb, superb. Right. Last but one track 4 now on side 2.
Track 4 is a Peter Frampton song, and it
Oh,
could have
yeah.
been any track. Could have been any track off of Frampton Comes Alive. Could have been any track. Could have been Show Me the Way, Baby I Love Your Way. Could have been Do You Feel Like We Do. Could have
Yeah.
been Shine On.
Yeah.
It could have been all manner of things, but again, just that opening if something's happening. Do, 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 I thought, oh, grandstand theme. No, it's not. And it's just brilliant. And there's about 5 guitar solos in there. And I think that was the first opening track of Frampton Comes Alive. And I sat down with the double album and I thought, oh, I've got a double album for the first time. And I just wanted to soak up the whole thing. I just thought it was brilliant. So, yeah, Peter Frampton, again, genius guitar player, wonderful writer. And it's pop rock. It's not Blood and Thunder. It's got the occasional backing vocal in there that is just the one. You just need the 3 or the 5. And yeah, just I could have picked any track off of Frampton Comes Alive, to be fair, but Something's Happening is just brilliant. I just love it.
So all of
That's the
the
summer of '76. That is the summer of '76.
yeah, it
Something's
is,
happening.
isn't it? It's
Yeah.
fact as you mentioned, Frampton Comes Alive. I can almost feel that we're in a heat wave as we talk, but it just feels like it takes me straight back to that. Really, that
Oh,
was the album, that was the soundtrack, one of those albums that everybody had. Yeah, great choice. And I think Peter Frampton coming from Humble Pie, which feels like a very more dark, serious,
yeah.
blokey, metal, bluesy thing. I mean, Frampton Comes Alive is, as you say, very pop centric, but with all the
Yeah.
guitars and harmonies, it's a double live album with extended tracks on it, but it still has this pop accessibility, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a total melting pot of the Doobie Brothers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Steely Dan, the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac. It's all of those American bands from 73, 76, or whatever. It's all of them, and you can almost hear how all that music in America at that time just followed that AOR FM radio thing where they were all writing. I mean, they invented AOR. Let's face it. Then obviously
yeah, yeah,
Boston and bands like that. And it's like, oh my God, what a place to be when that was happening. That's when I wish I was 30 then, in America, and being able to come up and go, oh, I can do that. I can write some songs like that. Because that's those songs and those albums are still the biggest albums in America. Go figure.
yeah. Very
You
true.
can talk about Michael Jackson and all the stuff that came after it, but you can't get past those blooming albums. So they invented stuff, and Frampton managed to take all of it. And a very strong female following as well, obviously, because he was a good-looking chap. He had all the bases covered, didn't he? So
He did
yeah,
indeed. He did indeed.
yeah.
Right. Here we are. Last track, side two. We finish our 1976 compilation.
I wonder what it could be. I wonder what song I left out. What song have I left? They go, hold on a minute, it's got to be John Miles, isn't it? Yes, it has. Yeah, John Miles music. I
Yeah.
can't not. I was going to not put it in. Say, look, there's two songs here that I'm not putting on the album because they're so given. It's not fair. But then, at the end of the day, we are doing an album, so music by John Miles has to be the last track. Lyrically, it sums up everything about
Everything.
life.
Yeah.
It's the first thing we really get into. Um, it's a phenomenal, enormous song. Alan Parsons and what was predominantly a four-piece band. John Miles on piano and guitar. Bob Marshall on bass. Drums were three. And a second keyboard player thinking, and they go and do a song like music. It's just perfect. It's the guitar, even that guitar sound. It's one guitar. It's not the fattest guitar sound of all time. John Miles had that lovely clippy digging in one guitar. I'm just going to play this one track, and that's how it's going to be. And it performed. You can hear the plectrum on the blooming strings. He's going. Just phenomenal. The most underrated performer, most underrated guitar player. Never got the kudos he fully deserved. The first four John Miles albums are perfection. The fifth album, nearly, but the first four, blueprint. And to be honest, when people say, "Oh yeah, Cats in Space, music, John Miles," I actually was more influenced by a track called "Fella in the Cellar" off the More Miles Per Hour album. That was a huge influence on me.
Yeah, I've got that.
That
Yeah.
in particular. But as a piece of music is just it's transcended beyond a pop song, and it's gone into an orchestral, symphonic Night of the Proms song, isn't it? In
It,
Germany every year.
yeah, it
It's
has. And I mean, your version is absolutely stunning. But it kind of the other track you mentioned on side one was 10cc. I'm Mandy Fly Me, and then we think about music. There are two songs that don't sound like singles because they have so many changes and different parts to them. You'd think that the way that people think about singles now, can you dance to it? Can you headbang to it? Whatever. But these are just those two in particular of your selection are just two wonderful pieces of written, composed music that are that you sit down and listen to, and they take you on a journey. And
yeah,
I think I mean, music is. So many people I know that go, that's my song because of how it makes them feel about what music has meant to them over the years.
yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's not preconceived, is it? They just wrote songs, and one had to
Yeah,
be a single. Queen did the same. Well, we just wrote 10 songs for the next album, and then one last. Well, what's the single going to be? Well, we don't know yet.
yeah,
We hate singles. We're an album band. We're not a singles band. Mud were a singles band.
yeah,
The Glitter Band were a singles band. But these bands weren't. They made albums, and they had to pick out a single. I mean, to be honest, the John Miles album, High Fly, was the perfect first single off the album. And because it was straight in with the hook.
yeah. It was, wasn't it?
and they go, oh, and I love that. I thought, what a tune that is. It reminded me of Pilot, obviously, similar production. And then to follow up with music, it's almost like, well, where did John Miles go? Who's doing this song? But yeah, I love John Miles, and my only regret is I never saw him live.
No, I didn't. No, but
That fateful Sunday, I didn't go up to get the ticket like my friends did. For some reason, I didn't go, and I missed out. So I think it was in Worthing of all places as well. So down the road.
no, very, very, very underrated artist, and well worth exploring beyond, the songs like music. But Tarot Woman by Rainbow, 10cc, Amanda Fly Me, Mystery Song by Quo, Kiss, Shout It Out Loud, Who Loves You by The Four Seasons, great choice. Boys Are Back in Town, You Owe Me Everything by The Real Thing, Scott Walker, No Regrets, Something Happening by Peter Frampton, and music by John Miles. An absolutely fantastic compilation for celebrating 1976. Now, you did say, Greg, you were going to mention some things that were going to throw people off balance that you didn't quite make. This would be like the bonus tracks for the CD version. So,
yeah. Well, the first thing I've got to say, because someone's already pulled me up on this on one of my videos, they said, "What about Boston and Kansas?"
yeah.
I didn't hear them. I mean, again, I didn't hear More Than the Feeling until 1977. And over that, I would pick Peace of Mind anyway. I mean, side one of Boston's first album is just the blueprint for AOR. It's just
It is,
phenomenal.
yeah, it is.
And Kansas, I didn't hear Left Overture until they reissued Carry On Wayward Son in 1978.
Same.
And that's so I went Left Overture, bang, and that became, I mean, if I was doing 1978, that would probably be the number one song, for me. So yeah, so those two, they're not in there for that reason. Well, some wild cards would be, one would be a song called More, More, More by Andrew True Connection.
Okay.
Again, another cod disco pop song.
Yeah.
I just love that song. I don't know why. I absolutely love that song. There's even a drum mistake in there, but it's a little stutter on the drums that I love. And obviously Andrea she's a huge star in Germany and whatnot, and did some really good albums. And a bit like Sheila B. Devotion, she did some great albums with Rick Springfield's backing band. So
Yeah.
there's an element of, they did go into this AOR territory. But that disco thing I've always really liked, like the ELO thing. So that's one. Another one is the track called I Want to Stay With You by Gallagher and Lyle.
Yeah. Nice.
Brilliant pop song. Brilliant pop song. Another one, How's That by Sherbet.
Yeah.
Australian bands. Great guitar solo in that. Great, just the step harmony. What was that? Great bit of funk in there. Great pop song. Another one that I absolutely, my favourite bass line of all time, Silly Love Songs by Wings.
Yes, yeah.
And I nearly put that one in because that is perfect McCartney pop. That's why, as Alan Partridge said, Beatles, Wings, the band the Beatles could have become. You know what I mean? Because,
yeah.
And again, shoot me, I don't care. That Speed of Sound album is phenomenal. I love it. Let them in. Another one. If You Leave Me Now by Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful ballads. God, I could go on. There's Single Bed by Fox.
Yeah.
With the talk box in there. I'm thinking, oh, Peter Frampton's guested on that, surely.
Yeah.
Living Thing by ELO. That's another, great song. Not my favourite ELO song by a long stretch, but still a great song. There was there's other songs. I'm not sure if they're from 76 or 75.
What's that? I should know this because it's one of my favourite tracks by you guys. There's like a real disco. It's a bit like Leo's. Yeah.
Thunder in the Night.
Yeah, Thunder. That's it. That's the one. There you go.
People
See, there it
think
is.
that was taken by Kiss. It wasn't. When me and Mick wrote Thunder in the Night as a throwaway as part of the concept, and it was very tongue in cheek. It had to be almost rubbish with the worst song title ever. Originally, it was Thunder, open brackets, in the night, close brackets. But I drew a line at the brackets. That's how dark things get, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't totally pastiched off of Kiss. It was nodding back to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the Connection and the Four Seasons and bands like that, because it has the major seven. You know, Kiss don't play major sevens. You
Yeah.
know, we had the major seven on the bridge section, which was very Frankie Valli.
Yeah.
Space. You know, it's pure pop. You know, people go, Cats in Space, level nonsense. I said, well, it's our biggest Spotify song.
It's yeah.
All our songs, Thunder in
It's
the Night, is the biggest one, which
it's a brilliant
for the
track.
most daft song. So I like that kind of stuff. I find it, you know, Alex Harvey, Boston Tea Party, you know, Leo Sayer, You Make Me Feel Like Dancing.
Yep.
A song, a fantastic song, you know. Um, I could go on. You
Yeah.
know, I could go on.
Well, before we wrap up, what I've got to ask you about the new album, Greg, because you did give
Mhm.
me early access to one of the tracks to hear, and I'm so excited about it because I knew straight away. I mean, I haven't played it to anybody else, but someone said, "What's it like, Phil?" I said, "This new album, if this is anything like it, I said this is going to be." One of the best Cats in Space albums. I know I say that every time,
Oh,
but
right.
every time you seem to do that, you kind of just push, the envelope further forward. So what do
It's
you guys think of this album? What are your thoughts on it within the
well,
camp?
firstly, it's the best album that we've done. And it is, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to say that. Oh, there you go. The old sales pitch is coming out again.
No, that's good.
It is the best album we've done. And I think it's because me, I look back at the albums in retrospect. Like, so I've got 2 years now for Time Machine. Bearing in mind, I worked with Stevie on the album a year before you guys even hear it. So Time Machine is kind of 3 years old in a way now. You know, when I start looking at the albums in retrospect, I can start judging them a bit more critically than at the time, because you get carried along with the latest thing. It's all fresh and it's the big thing. And Time Machine was a big departure for us because it's for Cherry Red. And now looking back, it was putting a marker in the sand. It definitely contains two of my favourite Cat songs, in Velvet Rush and a song called Forever and Ever. From a production and musical point of view,
Yeah.
for me, they're pretty much perfect. And My Father's Eyes, I
Oh,
think we got it
yes.
wrong. I'll admit that we got it
Oh,
wrong
great.
on a few songs.
Okay.
I'll admit, yeah, it didn't. We didn't hit bullseye on all of them. You can't always do it.
No.
I still think it's an incredibly strong album. And then I start looking back at your Scarecrow, Day Trip to Narnia, blah blah. You know, for me, pound for pound, Atlantis is the blueprint Cats album. One, because obviously Damon and the current lineup and whatnot. You know, it makes sense. You know, so when we was doing the new album, I nearly said the title. Then, good God, hold on, quick stock, man. I nearly just said the title. Then I can't say it yet.
It's okay. It's
But
all right.
the title is very grand.
Okay.
It could lead you to believe it's going to be Spinal Tap, but it is. When we was putting the album together very early on, we wanted to write an album that was conceptual in as much that it could be the songs again. They can tie together, but they very much tie together in places on this album, because we're very aware of the mental awareness state of the world and where we're at right now with everything that's going on. It's complete bonkers. I mean, let's not go there because it's a blooming depressing conversation to get involved in, you know. And I know people, we're all affected by it. Some days we all feel pretty crap, you know, because it's just, what the hell's going on? Can someone just sort this out, you know? And so you have a lot of mental awareness stuff going on. So we wanted to write this very powerful, strong album that was like, again, like a big hug, but this time it's a big metallic hug. Like, this is powerful stuff. And because it's you, I'm always going to give you an exclusive, and we do want to start the PR machine to roll. But this album is blooming full of epics, because people said there wasn't enough epics on the last album. which I kind of disagree with, because there were
Yeah,
two or three,
they were there. They were there.
but they weren't epic in the sense of Cats in Space taking you on a bootleg Bandoleros journey. Well, blooming well strap yourselves in, people, because there's side 2 is all epics. Not 1, but 5. And I'm going to tell you that now. There are 5 epics on side 2 of this new album, and side 1 is going to rock your nuts off. So it's the Queen 2 black and white vibe.
Yeah.
That's how I've always wanted to do that. And me and Stevie, and obviously with Damien coming in with the lyrics as well, we sat down and we really went through this. We didn't leave anything to chance. Then, of course, we had Dean didn't sign up for it, and we didn't have a bass player because we had a floating with Willie Dowling on the last sort. So we had to put a whole new concept together for a whole new campaign. Chris Childs and Sam Wood have come in, and they have brought in their size 10 giant Elton John Pimple wizard boots, and they've stomped all over it with glee, and yeah, I could talk all day about it because I'm that proud of what we've done. This is a bloody monster of an album. It really is, and the production is bigger than anything we've ever done. Me and Ian Capel just said we can't go any bigger. What we're going to do, we'll just do everything to 10. Let's just do more of what we want to do. And by the fact that Chris came in and Sam came in, and what they brought to the table kind of elevated the opportunities, what we could do. Now, Sam Wood, people may or may not know on your channel, but I've known Sam since he was a little kid. And I was one of his influences growing up, which makes me feel extremely old, but he's caught me up in age now. Obviously, we're the same age. But he is a total Gibson Les Paul, Thin Lizzy, Mick Ronson. That's all that's going on here.
That's going through his veins. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, Sam, I think it's time that Cats in Space did the album that could feature Scott and Robbo all the way through it. I want to do some songs where we're going to unleash the guitars properly, not just do an 8-bar solo. Let's flesh the bugger out. So we have. So there is a massive Thin Lizzy influence on the structure of some of these songs. And let me tell you how good Sam is. Oh, man alive. He knows how to pull a solo out. Without going widdly, widdly woo, look at me, how big's me, what's it? He doesn't do any of that. He just smashes out these glorious solos. He's made me up my game. I mean, he put the fear of God through me. And we have done a gig together with Cats last year in France. And it was very nerve-wracking because it was one rehearsal up and at them, and we didn't really have a chance to find the bonds. But the last 2 or 3 songs in the set, we just went, we won them. Let's just do it. And we just went hell for leather. And I just thought, this is it. This is really, we've got something. And his dad, Chris, is a good friend of mine. He just said, you and Sam are cut from the same cloth. He's much younger, but we are exactly the 2 peas in the same pod. And you'll hear that on the album. You'll hear the guitars absolutely take your face off, but in a really nice way, out of the Cats in Space type songs. Stevie's written the best lyrics he's ever written. There's a song, I can't give the title away really, but it's a little cheeky 2-part. It's a wonderful, wonderful lyric about wanting to live in the analog world. I know it's an old thing that Cats do a lot. Oh, I want to be digital. I know we don't, but the way that he's written this thing, it's just brilliant, and it's got a phenomenal bass line in it. It sounds like Queen. I think Damien's run out of the trees again. Damien's turned in stupid vocals as he always does. Andy Stewart's piano playing is off the scale. Steve is drumming every single hit, every single beat, every single bass drum. We went through with a fine-tooth comb. We made sure there was nothing left to chance. Nothing is thrown in. So as you can probably tell, it's huge. It's a huge thing. What you've heard, Phil, is anything but what the album is. That's why I did it. I was so tempted to send you a track. I will say this. I'm going to give you an exclusive, which if Cherry Red want to find me, they can find me. Because nobody knows this. I don't think even the band remember half the song titles. But you remember a song "Fell Out of Love with Rock and Roll,"
Yes, boy, do I remember that song. Yeah, I do.
which is a self-explanatory song that is
Yeah, it
about
is.
my
Yeah,
thing in the music business. I thought I need to write a part two. I need to tell the story of what happened properly and how the wheels fell off that. Because the reason I wanted to do that, I wanted to put a part two in, was so the part three of the story is the beginning of Cats in Space. That is how I just went on and did Too Many Gods
yeah,
and got the idea to do some original music again. I thought there's a big chunk here where part two is about how I fell into the world of cabaret. And I was watching that film, Robbie Williams, where he's played by an
yeah,
AI monkey,
yeah.
which
AI
I
Monk.
love.
Yeah.
I love Robbie Williams. I think the film's brilliant. I think it's a piece of genius. And it's about his dad. Oh, man, could I relate to his dad in that film? You've got to bring the lights in, son. You've got to do all this kind of stuff. And I thought they call him Mr. Showbiz, and that there's a song that we've got called Mr. Showbiz. Yeah, that's the title for you, and it's a big, big classic Cats in Space song that absolutely dovetails the Fell Out of Love with Rock and Roll, and it's again for me, it's one of the best things.
Well,
It's going to
well,
blow your mind.
well,
It's
"Fell Out of Love
it.
with Rock and Roll" is my favorite Cats songs, anyway. But I think, Greg,
If
you've
you're
just
going to
done,
find it,
you've just
you're
done an
going to find
absolutely fantastic salesman job. Without, I just think you've sold the album without mentioning the title of the album or any tracks apart from that last one in the last 2 minutes. I mean, you've just made, I think, everybody want to
it.
hear it.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, this is going to go in the PR. I don't mind. People can know this. The other thing that, I listen a lot to the social media and the fans, and we're doing these VIP tickets and we do these acoustic gigs, and they're expensive. I mean, you're digging into your pockets all the time. We had a chat about this, and I said, you know what, the problem that I find now, this goes against the grain maybe of what people may think, but I'm not actually a fan of coloured vinyls. I just find it's not how records were back then. I find
True.
it all a little bit of a necessity. It's good, it's nice. I understand people want to sell things three times to get 3 points towards a chart position for 5 seconds. I understand that. And we've done that. Of course, we've done that. But you know what? We got to a point where I said, you know what? Things are tight now. Things are proper tight. If we start chucking out a lot of boutique stuff and asking people to go in, and if you want that, you've got to get that, or when that's only available with that, you can't get this. You're, you're asking and testing people to such a degree that it's just too much. I said, you know what we should do? And the record company are totally behind it, obviously. I said, why don't we just bring out an album like people brought out an album in 1976? 50 years ago, you went out, you bought Jailbreak.
Yeah,
That's it. You bought Jailbreak. You didn't do. There's nothing else to go with it. I went. I want to do that. I want to bring out a black vinyl album. Silence. You
yeah,
know. Well, no, there's no turquoise marble stand on your head version. There's no kaleidoscope version. There's no pop-up gatefold clown in a box version. I know that we've done that shit before, pardon me. But I said, let's just bring out a record that's going to be how it should be. So people can buy it, people for it. So all I'm going to say is, we're meeting you here, people. We're bringing out something that is budget friendly. It's going to blow your minds. It's still going to be the most lavish black vinyl, typical Cats in Space artwork. The artwork, oh my God, wait till you see that. Steve has done the artwork. Stevie Bacon is a genius, mate. His
he is.
artwork is off the tin. It's completely going to blow your heads off. It really is. I said, so go out and buy the new album when it comes out, because you're only going to get the album and the CD, and the CD is only going to have 2 extra tracks just purely because we've asked to do it. But it's not about the extra tracks. It's about 10 songs, blow your head off, put it in your record collection next to the other ones, and that's it. Move on. Don't need to worry about buying anything else. If we do anything later on, it'll be because the fans want it. It won't be because we wanted to do it.
Yeah,
So there's nothing else to it. And I think that's a really cool. People are boutiqued out. I think, and the chosen few that can do this. And I'm on my soapbox, sorry, mate. When you see these bands doing all these boutique vinyls, they're only doing very small numbers, and it's really expensive. So it's more done for like the vanity side and the point side of it. And I'm thinking, for us to survive in this game, we've actually got to make money out of a record. And the only way we'll do it is to just put out a record like they did in 1976, make people buy it. So it's a very easy purchase, this next album. It will be the easiest purchase you make all year. And it will also be the best one.
Well, actually, I have to say, Greg, that it's so refreshing to hear that. Because as you say, I can remember exactly that. I can remember going to buy Jailbreak, and I went in to buy Jailbreak, and I came home, and there I had Jailbreak at home, and I went out and saw my mates down the pub, and we'd said, "Have you got Jailbreak?" Yes. We didn't have to say, "What version did you get?" You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got the blue one, which came with an extra what, it was just we had the album, and
yeah.
that's it.
Vinyl. Black vinyl, classic black vinyl.
Yeah,
10 songs, fill
yeah,
your boot, shove it next to Rainbow Rising and make it a classic. Yeah, I'm going against what we've done in the past, but it's because we listen and we watch, see what people want and do. And it's like, I would feel really uncomfortable blatting out in a month's time the pre-orders for this cornucopia of possibilities for a new album. What you end up doing, I think, is you water down the thing you're trying to hit them with, and that is the 10 songs with an album title with a piece of artwork. I think if you just start splatting out 5, 6, 7 versions, it kind of spreads it out to be almost like, you're going shopping in Sainsbury's, you're putting all these things in your trolley to make up
yeah.
whatever.
It doesn't make sense because if people buy the album, then if they've got any extra cash, they're going to either go and see you live or buy a T-shirt or, you know,
Absolutely. Which
and
is
then,
worth more money to us in
yeah,
totally honest. We make more money out of a t-shirt than out of a vinyl, trust me,
yeah,
yeah, we will do the artwork stuff because the artwork deserves it. And we have collectors now, we do appeal to the collectors. So yeah, we'll do that and I'll do my artworks, but that's a bolt-on separate business to what Cats in Space do. Our web store is a separate entity. When it's the music, it's all about the music, and I think where we are right now with the music business that doesn't exist anymore, I think it's really exciting just to say, here's my new album. That's it.
yeah,
That's how it used to be. Do you
yeah,
remember when you did that? That's what
yeah.
we did.
A collection of songs from the heart, which in these dark times, I know with the Cats in Space, I've just done a video about my top feel good albums of all time, and Kickstart the Sun is right at the top because I think that the
Yeah,
music that Cats make is just perfect for what we need at the moment. Thanks,
yeah, thank
Greg,
you.
for sharing as much as you possibly can at this point in time, and we'll catch up again nearer the launch date. But I don't want a lot of people wanting to know how they can not miss out on anything that pops along. So, catsinspace.com is the website, but you're also there's on Facebook and all over socials as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so it's catsinspace.co.uk
Oh,
is the web.
yes,
Yeah, yeah, the
catsinspace.co.uk.
web store there. You can still buy all our back catalogue and stuff. And obviously, Cherry Red have got Time Machine and they've got the CD box set for
Yeah, which
people
is
that want to
great.
get the early years stuff. That's the first, the chapter one, as we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can go there. Look out for us. We will be touring next year. We got the two launch shows in November, November 5 and November 6. We're doing a couple more acoustic shows up in Barslick in December as well. But it's all about getting the campaign for the album now. It's going to start very soon with a single coming out. I think we're looking at very, very early September for the first single,
Okay.
which is
And
only a month away,
it
really.
is, and that's so really we've only got a few weeks to wait until we know the title of the album as well then.
Yeah, I think I'll be discussing that very soon this week. I think it's brilliant. It's everyone's going. It's typical Cats in Space. We're Spinal Tap, whatever, but dig in because there's a very, very, very strong vibe about this album. That's very, very important. And I
No,
think it's
no,
got.
no. I can't. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, thank you very much. And I said it's catsinspace.co.uk for all the information on the cats. But thank you, Greg, for all of your time today. It's been brilliant talking to you. And what a fantastic compilation album from 1976 that would be.
My
We can
pleasure.
all,
My pleasure, sir. I will see you all soon. Thank you, people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, a huge thank you to my guest, Greg Hart, from the magnificent Cats in Space, and that's catsinspace.co.uk. And please make sure you follow Greg and the Cats on Facebook and Instagram so you keep up to date with this kind of move through to the kind of PR and the kind of build up of the news of this new album. Greg did tell me what the album was going to be called when we stopped recording. No, I can't. I can't say what it is, but I think he did a very good job at selling it to us without even us hearing a note or hearing any track titles apart from one towards the end. And it sounds like it's going to be their hardest rock album they've ever done. I like it, all the albums, and I actually like Time Machine a great deal. But I'm very excited about this, and it was a good exercise doing the best of 1976 album as well. I've done this on some of my own videos where I've put together imaginary compilation albums with just 10 tracks of favorite artists, etc. But I thought this one was very good. So for those of you who want to put together the Greg Hart playlist on Spotify or Apple, it was Tarot Woman by Rainbow was track one, side one. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. 10cc and Mandy, Fly Me. Kind of knew there'd be a 10cc track in there. Mystery Song by Status Quo. Can't beat the Quo, can you really? I have to say that I think I've become more of a Quo fan in recent years than I have been for a long time. Kiss, Shout It Out Loud from Destroyer. I know some people not Kiss, but not here. My oldest son went to see loads of their farewell concerts. Absolutely fantastic band. And who we got? And then who loves you, Pretty Baby by the Four Seasons. I've got the Madfish box set, which covers decades and decades of music by Frankie Valli. But interesting, and with Greg mentioning how they'd kind of looked into the kind of vocal interplay and harmonies, makes sense. Side two was The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy. It was interesting, for Greg to say this is one of his favorite tracks ever. And I do think that it is timeless. And I think that it's the storytelling. So that's how I could see the link, because a lot of Cats in Space songs are stories which draw you in and put you alongside the main characters, and then you become those characters. You to me are everything by The Real Thing. It's a great song, and the Thunder, is it what I can't again, it's escaped my mind, but the kind of disco-ish type track that the Cats do. And I remember Greg saying that they did it at a gig somewhere and everybody was kind of couldn't stop moving to it. It's just great songs, great melodies. So it's fabulous. Scott Walker, No Regrets. One of my favorite songs of all time before I knew it was one of my favorite songs of all time. And I think it's because Tom, is it Tom Rush? Tom, I think, was the original on Elektra Records, 1967, 68. And it used to be on radio too. I think it was Family Favorites, and Mum and Dad would be preparing Sunday lunch, and it was always on the radio. And so Scott Walker did it in 1976 with a fantastic guitar solo, and the Cats in Space did it as like a bonus track off the Time Machine album, and Damien on vocals takes it to a place where you just can't believe it. You have to hear that version. I mean, I know the original is excellent, and obviously this version by Scott Walker is brilliant, but you have to hear the Cats version. And Something Happening by Peter Frampton, by one of the most successful live albums of all time, Frampton Comes Alive. Brilliant choice. And then another song that has been done by Cats in Space, and another one of my favorite songs of all time by one of the most underrated artists and guitarists, period, John Miles, and Music. I think it is a melancholy song, but it kind of, because it sums up a lot for a lot of people what music means to them. And somebody like Greg Hart and the Cats in Space, all of the guys in the Cats in Space are musicians who love music. And this is a song that kind of goes through all of us. And I think a lot of people who are part of Now Spinning magazine, we've attracted a community of like-minded people who realize the power of music. And, and I say, music is the healer of the doctor and stuff. And I say it a lot because I really mean that. And I think that tracks like that are just so universal. And while I was talking to Greg, I was thinking, people put out songs then. They didn't think, oh, this will be a hit single. You see people dancing on top of the pops of this. It's got so many different segments. People just put out songs and they wrote songs and they just felt that was a good song. Just the song and the melody. It's a wonderful song. So thank you, Greg, Greg Hart from Cats in Space, for putting together such a fantastic list of tracks for the compilation called The Best of 1976. Anyway, to finish on, check out catsinspace.co.uk. And it's great to know that Greg is putting out an album, The Cats in Space, where there won't be 55 different variants. And if you don't buy this version, you don't get this track or whatever. It's going to be the album comes out, you buy the album, you own the album. Remember, physical music is the only thing that's real. I mean, we're living now in the world of AI, which is everywhere. I mean, Cats in Space have made kind of comments about moving away from the digital world. And I think it's more and more people are getting fed up with not knowing what's real and what isn't. This will be a real album on black vinyl and CD. It's the real deal from a band that really is the real deal. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe. Go to the website, nowspinning.co.uk. We have our own shop there selling merch and records and box sets and vinyl, all sorts of stuff. If you become a patron, you'll get access to our communities on WhatsApp and Facebook, and also come along to our virtual pub called the Now Spinning Arms, which meets up twice a month via Zoom. Take care, all of you. Keep spinning those discs, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.